just recorded its sharpest property price fall in 18 months.
Home prices have jumped 42% since 2020.
Home prices are expected to drop slightly by about 2%.
What in the world is going on with home prices in Southern Oregon? You just saw what the news says in different parts of the country about home prices in those areas, but what about right here in little old Southern Oregon? I guess I kind of spoiled that one, huh, by putting it in the title of the video, but anyways, now that the cat's out of the bag and you know that home prices are going up in Southern Oregon, I'm going to answer the burning questions that I know you have, like what does it mean to you as a current homeowner living in Southern Oregon? What does it mean for you? Or what about you as the possible person moving into Southern Oregon? What does it mean for you if you're thinking about moving here to Southern Oregon? And I actually have a little bit of a plot twist for you because this whole thing is just not what you think it is, right? It is much, much more nuanced than that. And I'm going to tell you all about that at the end. So first off, let's talk about some facts to silence the haters out there who are going to say things like I'm wrong and that the market is actually crashing and that the sky is falling and that home prices are going down. Let's just silence them right out of the gate. And I'm going to tell you some data. We're looking at Jackson and Josephine Counties of Southern Oregon, and we're looking at sold single family residential homes, okay? That's the data that we're looking at. And we're looking at the month of March in 2024. The median home price for sold homes that met that criteria in March of 2024 was $432,000, okay? A year ago, March of 2023, it was $419,000. So we went from $419 to $432, okay? And that, my friends, using some simple math, is called an increase in the home price. So it's hard to argue that one. So in 1 year, the home prices obviously went up, but what about 6 months? I'm sure there's the people out there that are like, well, yeah, that's a year, but let's look at the 6 months. Cool. Well, 6 months ago in October 23, home prices were $425, looking again at the median closed one. Well, what about 3 months ago? Also $425, okay? So the median sold price didn't necessarily skyrocket when you look at the Jackson and Josephine Counties data combined, but it did in fact go up, and that is a simple fact. You can't argue that. So the people that are saying, oh no, home prices are crashing, my neighbor sold their home and my plumber told me that they're crashing, or whatever the case is, that's just the data, okay? You can't really argue with the math. And like I mentioned, I told you that it is much more nuanced than that, and it is. And I'm going to get to that shortly, so just hang tight for a minute. And in fact, you may even want to just hit that pause button and jot down my information right here so that you can get in contact with me. Okay, I'm Brian Simmons with eXp Realty, by the way, and my number's on the screen right now, so feel free to call or text me with any questions that you have after watching this video, or any questions you have about buying or selling real estate in Southern Oregon, and I'd be happy to help you. Now back to the good stuff, okay? I know you want to know, how does this affect you as a current resident living in Southern Oregon? And that is a fantastic question, okay? So as a homeowner, okay, your values are going up, right? And that's a great thing. What homeowner doesn't want the value of your home to go up, right? Okay, you're gonna build more equity. You're gonna have a leverageable asset in your home that's worth more, you know, next year than it is, you know, this year, and this year than the year prior, right? So you have an appreciating asset, right? And that's the whole point of homeownership. At least that's a big point of it, is to be able to have an appreciating asset that you can tap into, that you can leverage, and that you can, you know, do different things with. And that's a really, really good thing. It's especially a good thing if you're planning on selling it, okay? Which is the only real way you realize that gain. You also get the tax benefits of being a homeowner and all those sorts of things that go along with it. But this is not about homeownership. This is about the appreciation of the asset. And as a asset holder, of course you want to see that asset go up in value, right? So seeing home prices go up is obviously a very, very good thing for homeowners all across Southern Oregon. What about renters, okay? For renters, kind of not so much of a great thing, right? Because if prices go up, the real estate side of things, they generally are going to go up on the rental market side of things as well. So in Southern Oregon, we have a bit of a shortage in the sales side of things and in the renting side of things, but especially in the renting, okay? It's tough to find a rental right now, and it becomes even more expensive as the real estate market gets more and more competitive. And that's one of the signs of a competitive real estate market, is that prices are going up. So when you see prices going up, you could generally think that in most cases, rental prices are going to go up, and that's going to make it more expensive. And as a renter, that's not a great thing to just continue to pay your landlord more and more money, because you're making them rich, really is what happens. So that's why you hear so many people, all the financial gurus in existence, pretty much, unless they're a crazy one, they say that homeownership is the key to building wealth, and it's true. So if you're a renter and you don't like seeing these home values go up, buy a home so that you can get on the train of, you know, that appreciation, that value. And if you feel like you can't buy a home, let's talk, because there's a lot of programs out there that you may not know of that will allow you to buy a home with lower credit scores or with no down payment. There's a lot of good programs out there. So reach out. Again, you'll see my number on the screen. It's in the description of this video. Reach out and let's talk about that. In general though, whether you own your home, you rent your home, and you're just a resident of Southern Oregon, seeing home values appreciate is actually a good thing, okay? Because it's a good sign of a healthy economy, all right? It's good for morale. You see a growing city, right? You see a growing county, a growing area, and that's very rarely viewed as a bad thing, okay? If you think about cities that have all these rising home prices, they're usually desirable places to live. The home values are going up for a reason. It's because a lot of people are moving there, and it's because of supply and demand. And we certainly are seeing that happen here, where a lot of people are moving from out of state. Okay, I'm working with buyers coming here from the Midwest, coming here from California, coming here from Washington, Utah, Arizona, all over the place. And it's the same story. They're coming here because it's a desirable place to live, because we have a low cost of living, we have a great climate, because they like the political landscape, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is for that person, it makes sense and it's desirable, and that's bringing more people, and it's supply and demand, and the prices are going up. Okay, but maybe you don't live here and that doesn't really matter to you, and you're just thinking about maybe becoming a Southern Oregonian, okay? So how does this affect something like you when home prices are going up? Well, it's not really getting any cheaper. So that's one of the things that's not the greatest news for you if you're thinking about moving to Southern Oregon. But here's the deal, okay? The best time to buy a home was yesterday. The second best time is today, right? So the good news here is that if we're being honest, right, the gain, and I'm always going to be honest with you on this channel. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that by now. But if we're being honest about the gain, it really wasn't that big of a gain, right, that we saw in the home value appreciation over the last year, okay? It was about 3%, right? That's pretty modest. But when you look at it nationally, how does that compare to the nationwide trend? Which I hate really looking at nationwide trends. That's another thing you know if you ever watch my videos. But I don't like really looking at the nationwide trends for giving advice on our local market, because our local market is so unique. And that's being, shown off here in the fact that we went up 3% when nationwide home values, the median home price was pretty flat and even a loss in some cases, depending on the specific time frames that you're looking at. But that's looking at the most comparable data that's available from the Fed, which is the Federal Reserve economic data. Okay, so what they show, the nationwide median home price, median sales price, was pretty much flat, and in some cases a decline. But what we're seeing is it was better than flat. It was definitely an increase here in Southern Oregon. But why is that good for you if you're thinking about moving here? Well, it means that you're moving into a place where you're going to be investing your money into a safe place, right? So when the market is neutral and we're appreciating, imagine what's going to happen when the market appreciates, right? We're going to be going up, you would think, right? So it's a good sign that you're going to be investing your money into a good area in Southern Oregon where you're not going to be losing money, right? So that's kind of one of the other keys of doing well in real estate. I told you that this isn't all what you might think it is, right? And it's much more nuanced than that, because it's not as simple as saying that, yeah, home prices are going up and that's that, right? It would be nice if it was that easy, but there's obviously, more to the story. And what I mean by that is when you start to really break that down. So what does it look like in Medford and Grants Pass and Ashland specifically? And that's where things get a little bit more complicated. So if you look at Medford, for example, okay, in March of 2024, the median sold price was $424,000, okay? 3 months ago, it was $439,000. So if you just looked at that little clip, you'd say, wow, yeah, home prices are crashing. That's crazy. But if you went 3 months further and you look at 6 months ago, the median price was $410,000. So you go $410,000 to $424,000 now, and we've got back to the increase. And 6 months prior to that, a year ago, it was at $420,000. So we went $420,000 to $424,000, right? Slight increase, not very crazy. But that's why it's a little bit more nuanced, okay? Look at Grants Pass, kind of the same story. You went from $400,000 in March of this year. 3 months ago, it was $404,000. So again, slight decline. 3 months before that, it was $410,000. The 6 months before that, it was $390,000. So it went from $390,000 to $400,000 in a year, and we had that slight increase. But this is where things get pretty crazy, is when you look at Ashland, okay? So Ashland, Oregon, last month, March of 2024, the median sold price was $754,000. And to put that into perspective, 3 months prior, it was $580,000. That's insane, okay? A 3-month gain from 580 to 724, that's huge, okay? And 3 months before that was 523, and 6 months before that was 531, which would have been the price from a year ago. So any way you slice that, you look at it and say, hey, a year ago in Ashland it was 531, it went up to 754. That's crazy. So what in the world happened. Let's talk about that in a second. But when you look back at Medford and Grants Pass, the thing I want you to think about is that was really, a pretty clear gain in both cases, right? A little bit of a mixed bag if you look at the 3 to 6 month thing, but pretty much a slam dunk that it was a gain across the board when you look at it over a year. But back to Ashland. How did it become such a rocket ship where it went from, the mid fives to $750,000? I actually dove way more into the data because I was so curious about that. And what actually happened in Ashland was that there were 17 single-family residential homes sold in the month of March, okay? And it just so happens that if you know anything about what the median is, it's the middle number, okay? So there were 8 homes sold above $754,000 in Ashland in March, and 8 homes sold below that number. And I checked it out, and that's true. That's exactly what happened. So it could be that it's an anomaly. Who knows? That's why I don't like to look at small sample sizes of data. I like to look at big sample sizes of data, like the counties, okay? So you put Jackson and Josephine Counties together, and that gives you a pretty good sample size, and that's what we saw with the first numbers I talked about. That was the 3% gain, okay? So here's the point, right? Overall, prices did go up. That's pretty hard to argue, okay? Parts of Southern Oregon, they went down though. If you were to look at Cave Junction, the median sold price in Cave Junction in March was only $204,000. That's crazy low, okay? 3 months ago, it was $630,000. That's insane. That's higher than Medford. And a year ago, it was $340,000. So clearly, there's some big outliers that are impacting the numbers here, and there's just not enough sales in the month to provide a reliable sample size of data. And again, that's why I like to look at those bigger sample sizes of data, like the county level, all right? That's kind of the sweet spot in my mind. The nationwide data is too big to be able to tell us what's really going on in the local real estate market, of course, but the county level, there's hundreds of home sales each month. There's enough to know what's actually happening and get a really good picture, okay? I could take that Cave Junction data or that Ashland data like I told you about, and I could create some crazy headline about how Cave Junction's home prices are down 60% in 3 months, and that would actually be a true story, right? But it wouldn't really be a fair assessment because it's not really telling you the whole picture. And again, that's why this is a little bit more nuanced than just spitting out some data at you. Okay, so kind of crazy, but it's true. Speaking of crazy, I heard a really crazy story the other day that Oregon is actually banning your ability to have a garden and to water your garden from the well on your own property, right? And that you're actually gonna have to ask the state for permission to use the water from your own well. I thought that was just insane. So I did a ton of research on that, and I actually made a video all about that you can view by clicking on this one right up here. And while you're clicking, don't forget to click on that subscribe button, and that helps me out a whole lot. So if there's anything I do to help you learn, buy, or list real estate here in Southern Oregon, don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information is in the description of this video, and I thank you for watching.